Hello and welcome to another VBScript video. In this video we'll look at loops, and in this video we'll look at for next statement and for each next statement. So first of all, the question is, what are loops? Instead of writing the same script code again and again, we can use the powerful feature of loops in VBScript. A loop basically runs a block of code repeatedly. It runs the same block of code as per a condition. Now, one of the looping statements is the for next statement. So let us say we have to show the numbers 1 through 5. So the flowchart of that is, we start and we assign 1 to I. I is a variable. Then we test the condition, is I less than or equal to 5. So the current value of I is 1. So 1 is less than or equal to 5. Yes. So it's going to display I, which is going to display 1. Then what we do is increase I by 1. So I is 1. So increasing I by 1 means that I becomes 2. Then again it goes back and tests the condition. Is 2 less than or equal to 5? Yes. It displays 2. Increases I by 1, so I becomes 3. Again it goes back and tests the condition. Is 3 less than or equal to 5? Yes. It displays 3. Increases I by 1, so I becomes 4. Again it tests the condition. Is 4 less than or equal to 5? Yes. It displays 4. Increases I by 1, so I becomes 5. Again it goes back and tests the condition. Is 5 less than or equal to 5? Yes. It displays 5. Increases I by 1, so I becomes 6. Again tests the condition. Is 6 less than or equal to 5? No. So then it stops. So let us see how we can write a VB script for this. So here we have the VB script, and we have declared a variable I, and we have defined a sub procedure called loop 1. So loop 1 is from line 6 to line 10, and all it does is uses the for next statement. So the syntax of the for next statement is, first of all, there is the for statement. It gives the value of a variable. So here the variable is I, and the starting point of I is 1, and it goes from 1 through 5. The entire for next statement lies between the for statement and the next statement. So what is going to happen is, first of all, I is going to become 1. Then the message box on line 8 will be displayed. Then next increments the value of I to 2. Again it goes back. So is 2 between 1 and 5? Yes. So it gives a message box of 2. Then next increases it the value to 3, and so on. So this message box statement runs from the value of I of 1 through to value of I is 5. So let us execute this and see how it works. So here we have to execute this script. So I'm going to just type in the name of the script, for loop, and it says the current value of I is 1, the current value of I is 2, 3, 4 and 5, and then it exits. So this is an example of the for next statement. So for next statement runs a block of code a fixed number of times, and you can control the number of times by giving the starting value and the ending value. The starting value of I is 1 and the ending value of I is 5. So basically this for loop runs 5 times for the values of I of 1 through 5. Now let us comment out this call statement and uncomment the loop 2. Loop 2 is another sub procedure in this script. And here the difference between the earlier for loop and this for loop is that we have given the step within the for statement. So what is going to happen is, this for loop runs from I from 1 to 10, but instead of increasing the value of I by 1, it's going to increase the value of I by 2 every time. So let us run this and see how it works. So first of all, the value of I is 1. Then displays the message box coming from line number 14, and when the next statement is encountered, it increases the value of I by 2. So I was earlier 1, so now it becomes 3, and it checks whether 3 is between 1 and 10. Yes, so it will display the message box showing the value of 3. Again it goes to the next statement, and next statement increments the value of I by 2, so I becomes now 5, and it checks whether the value of I, which is 5, is between 1 and 10. Yes, it will display the message box showing the value as 5. So we can give this different step. If we don't give the step, it assumes the step is 1. Otherwise we can give any other step that we want. Now there is an exit for statement also in VBScript. So what it does is, if the condition is true, then we can execute the exit for statement. Exit for statement basically exits from the for loop. So here it is commented out, but let me uncomment this. And this statement is, if I is equal to 5, then exit for. So what is going to happen this time is, I is going to run from 1, so it displays the value of 1 in the message box. Then I becomes 3, it displays the value of 3 in the message box. Then I becomes 5, it displays the value of 5 in the message box. But then I is equal to 5 condition becomes true, so it exit for statement is executed, so it comes out of the for loop. So we can use the exit for statement in order to terminate the loop or break out of the loop is that particular condition is true. So let us execute this script once again. So it says the current value of I is 1, then the current value of I is 3, then the current value of I is 5, and because I is 5, the condition in line 15 is true and exit for statement is executed. One other thing to remember is that we need not always give the values of the counter variable in the for statement in increasing order. We can give it in decreasing order also. So let us say that we want to give the values from 10 to 1, and because we are giving a value of 10 to 1, if we give a positive step or we don't give a step, then what's going to happen is that it's never going to reduce the values. So we can give a negative step also. So let us say we give the step as -2. So first of all, the value of I is going to be 10. It's going to display 10. Then I becomes 8 because the step is -2. It displays the value of 8, then -6, and so on. And we can comment out this exit for statement to see how this works. So it says the current value of I is 10, and next time the current value of I is 8, then 6, 4, 2, and then the for loop completes because it has reached beyond 1. So we can give a positive step. If we don't give the step is assumed to be 1. Or if we want a bigger step, we can give a bigger step. If we want, we can give a negative step also. So this is about the for next statement. Now there is another form of the for next loop, and it is called the for each loop. Sometimes we don't know how many times the loop has to execute, and the number of times the loop has to execute depends on some values. So these values can be in the form of an array, or they can be in the form of a collection. So let us say that our objective is to list out the files in a particular folder. So I have a folder here, and it is E drive VBScript files, and we can see 3 files over here: 1.txt, 2.txt, and disk sizes.txt. So let us see how this script is written. We have used one statement here, which is on error resume next. On error resume next is a VBScript statement which basically does not get the script to stop if there is any error. If there is any error, then the script simply moves on beyond that point until it finishes the end of the script. So we have declared 3 variables on line 3. One is objfso, OBJFSO is an variable which is going to store the file system object. Then there is a variable folder and there is a variable file. Now whenever we are working with objects, so we cannot simply give the name of the variable is equal to something. We have to use the set statement. So we say set OBJFSO is, and we use the create object built-in VBScript function to create the file system object. So OBJFSO basically represents the file system object on the local computer. Then we have to put the value in the folder variable. Now folder is also an object and we use the set statement. So set folder is equal to objfso.get folder, and we give the path of the folder. Now what this means is that the file system object is going to have many folders, but we are going to get the folder VBScript files, which is this particular folder over here, and store that in folder. Now here is an example of the for each next statement. Here we don't know how many files are in the folder. It can be 1 file, or it can be 10 files, or it can be 100 files. It doesn't really matter. What this for loop is going to do is run the entire block of code as many number of times as there are objects in the folder.files. So in our folder we have 3 files, and this loop is going to run 3 times. So let us run this and see how this works. So the name of the script is for each loop. So here it says the message box 1.txt, 2.txt and disk sizes.txt, which is exactly the names of the files. If there were 10 files, it would display 10 message boxes, or we can give any other statements that we want. Here after file we have given the name property. So every file within that folder is an object. So we can use the name property, or we can use the size property, or we can use the path property, or we can use a drive property. So there are so many built-in properties of the file object. So let us say we want to give the message box as file.path, and we can execute it. So it is now showing the complete path of every file in that folder. So it is VBScript files 1.txt, 2.txt and disk sizes.txt. So this is about the for each next statement. For each next statement runs a block of code for each element in the collection. Here the collection is all the files in a particular folder. Now let us see an example of another script, and this script is basically just an example, and what it does is finds out the hard disks on your computer, and basically it shows what is the total space of each drive and what is the free space in each drive. So if I look at my computer, so I can see that there are 4 different drives over here, C, D, E and H, and C has, for example, a total size of 97 or 98 GB and a free space of 68 GB. So let us see how this particular example script is written. So here we have a number of variables: obj WMI service, obj hard disks and obj drive. And we also have a couple of objects to manipulate the files. So the important line of code in this script is set obj WMI service is equal to get object WMI win managements COM-PC. COM-PC is the name of my computer. So basically what it does is it gets a reference to the WMI service. WMI service stands for Windows Management Instrumentation Service. It is useful for automating administrative tasks on a computer or getting the system data. Then we have obj hard disks as another object variable, and what it does is on the obj WMI service it executes a query, and the query is select star from the logical disks. So we have the logical disks defined in the computer, and it is going to get those logical disks and store that as a collection in the obj hard disks variable. Now we have another variable, as we saw in the last script, objfso. This creates a reference to the file system object, and we have obj file, which basically opens the text file. So we have the text file VBScript files disk sizes.txt, and after that we have given a constant for appending. Now there are several constants that we can give when opening a text file. If we want to open the text file just for reading from that text file, we can give the constant as 1, or if we want to write it, we can give the constant as 2. And if we want to append it, that means we don't want to destroy the existing data in the file, we just want to add more data at the end of the file, we can give it for appending. And all these are constants that are defined in line number 6. So for appending really means we can put 8 over here, but we can put for appending as a constant just to make the script more readable. Now we have 3 more variables. Int total space, which is going to get the total space on a particular drive. Int free space, which is going to get the free space on the drive, and str drive name, which is going to get the drive name. Now here we have an example of the for each next statement. So what this for each next statement does is it looks at the collection of obj hard disks and places each object in obj hard disks in the obj drive variable. Now within the for each next block we have few statements. So the first statement, what it does is it finds out the obj drive, which is our current object within obj hard disks dot size, and we divide it by the number of bytes because the size is returned as bytes. So this bytes is the number of bytes in 1 GB. So we can just test it out. So 1 GB means it is 1024 megabytes, or if we multiply it by 1024, so this is so many kilobytes, and if we multiply it by 1024, so many bytes. So this is exactly the same number, 1073741824. So we are dividing the number of bytes by this number to get the total space in gigabytes, and we have used the round VBScript function to round it off to 0 decimal places. So this value is stored in int total space variable. Then similar thing is done for int free space, and obj drive dot free space gives the free space in bytes, which we divide by this number to get the free space in gigabytes. And str drive name becomes obj drive dot device id, and what we do is obj file is our text file, which is disk sizes.txt. So if we open it right now, it doesn't contain anything. So it is going to write a line, and this line is going to contain now, which means the current date and time, and it says the drive name hard disk drive has a total of so many total space and in GB, and a free space of so much in GB. Now because this is a long line, I have used the continuation character, which is ampersand space underscore. So we can using this character we can divide a string into multiple lines. So this block of code, which is the for each next statement, executes once for every drive on the computer. So let us see how this works. So the name of this script is disk sizes, and it has already executed, and earlier we saw that disk sizes.txt contained nothing, but now if we open it, we can see that it gives the current date and time, so 23rd May 2014, 8:07 PM, and it says the C drive has a total of 98 GB and a free space of 68 GB, which is what we can test over here. So we can see, yes, the C drive has 98 GB of total size and a free space of 68 GB. So it does that for every drive in the system. For drive H is the system reserved drive, and that is why it has not been able to get that data, but it has successfully got the data for drives C, D and E. So this is another example of using the for each next statement, and at the end, after the for loop, it just writes a line which is a number of hyphens. Now because we have opened this text file for appending, it means that if we execute this script another time, it is not going to destroy the existing data but just going to append more data. So let us run this script one more time, and now if we open the file, we are going to see that now it contains two blocks of data. So this is the first time we ran it, and this is the second time that we ran it. So basically you can write your own scripts like this to monitor the disk drives on your system, what is the total size and what is the free space on the disk drives, and you can keep on appending to the same text file. So over a period of time you can have a record. But whatever script you write, you should make sure that you test it on a non-production machine, because you want to make sure that everything is working correctly in the script, and if you think that the script is fine, then you can use it at your own risk. So this is about loops. So just to recap, loop means that we run a block of code repeatedly, and we run the loop repeatedly as per a condition. So loops are example of conditional statements, because depending on a condition, the block of code is executed. And loops give us real power in scripting, because we don't have to repeat similar statements or same statements over and over again, but we can use loops. And for next loop is a very powerful loop. It's a very simple looping statement. We can just give, we want to start it from this value and we want to go in until this value, and we can also control what is going to be the increment by giving the step. We can run the loop in ascending order by giving a lower value to a higher value, or we can run it in descending order from a higher value to a lower value. And if we don't know what are going to be the initial and final values in the for loop, we can use the for each next statement, which is going to iterate or go through each and every object in a collection or an array. So that is all for this video, and see you in the next video. Thank you.